Hello and welcome to LeadMaster. So I'm going to show you how to import into a multi-select field. And right now what I have is kind of an overview of what we'll be doing today. We're going to start out with this chart. As you can see, it has each type labeled with a 1. We want to instead have this chart read as each of the values: swim, run, jump, throw, and catch. Then we want to combine these values so that they're read in a row instead of each individual column. And then at the end we're just going to get rid of the comma at the end, and then this will be the column that will be imported into the LeadMaster system. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to recreate these values and change them into individual words: swim, run, jump, throw, and catch. And we're going to do that through an if statement, just like we did in previous videos. So it equals if, and we're also going to use a trim function, which we've also used in previous videos. But if you haven't seen that video, a trim function allows us to remove the blanks before and after individual selections. So if the trim of, in this case it will be B3, equals quote 1, then it is swim with a comma, then close the quotation, comma, otherwise it's blank. Close up your value, press enter, and then there's swim with a comma. So now what you want to do is you want to copy and paste these values all the way down. I always do paste special and I click formulas. So now we have a swim every time there's a 1 in this chart. And we can also add to this chart, create more swims or delete swims if we need to. And now I'm going to pause the video so that I can complete the rest of this chart. Okay, so now I have my new chart all filled in, each with their own individual formulas that are connected to this chart. Okay, so now I want to take a step back and show you another way to get this same chart, but maybe in an easier way for some of you. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this column, and then I always click Command or Control F, which is find. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace. What do we want to do? We want to search by column, make sure this is highlighted within the sheet. What do we want to find? Each of these ones we want to replace with the word swim. Replace, replace all. So now this column now says swim, which is what we wanted. So the only issue with this is that you can't work off of your original data. You have to alter it, which sometimes it's helpful to have that original chart to revert back to. So now we want to combine these values into one column, just like we saw in the beginning. There's two ways. I'm going to show you the way that I find easiest, but in a separate video I'm also going to show you how to use an if statement to create essentially the same effect. But instead, this time, instead of an if statement, we are just going to use ampersands. So we're going to use this, ampersand, 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 and L3. Press equals, and now we have a concise list. Great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to copy that and paste. I always do paste special, of course, that we're going to do formulas. Okay. And now we have a list, which is great. So you notice how it looks like there's spaces in between individual words and it looks a little bit jumbled, not clean and neat like we want it to look. That is because of the spaces in between the ones in this chart, because we're working off of this first chart here. Don't forget that. So what we need to do is we need to add a trim function. So we just go up here, they're all selected, we just add a trim, and the trim function will get rid of those spaces. There's the first one, so we have to copy and then paste on the rest. So they all look neat and orderly now, but now we need to get rid of the comma at the end of the row. Although it makes sense for commas to be in between each of the words, it doesn't make sense for there to be one at the end of the statement. The way to fix that is what we're going to put in our final column. We're going to use a new command called left. What the left command does is that it looks to everything to the left in a field. And what we want to determine is how far left do we want to look and what do we not want to include in our new statement. In this case, we're just getting rid of the comma. So everything besides the very last one is what we want. So in this statement, it's going to be left of N3 in this case. So out of all of N3, we're going to focus on the length of N3 minus 1, which is the very last one, which is the comma. There we go. No comma at the end, which is great. So now what we want to do is copy and paste, as always, into these columns. Paste special, formulas, okay. So now we have our final exercise types without the commas at the end of each of the sentences. And what I always do when I'm working with a lot of formulas and I just need one final list is that I just copy and paste, special. I just want to include the values. I don't want any of the formulas. If it's going to be imported into LeadMaster, we want to make sure that we just have the values. Click OK. And now we have just our values, so that if any of these were ever deleted or moved, we would still have this concise list. So this is our exercise type final. Which can then be imported into LeadMaster.